"Yes, everything," she replied. "The cottage is sold, and—"
"Ah, indeed, sold?" said he, interrupting her. "If I mistake not, you told me when I met you in Rome that it was left by will to you. May I, as your to-morrow's husband, ask how much you received for it?"
And he unbent his dignity so far as to wind his arm around her waist. But the arm was involuntarily withdrawn when, with her usual frankness, Matty replied: "I received $1,000, but there were debts to be paid, so that I had only $500 left, and this I made over to my daughter to be used for her education." Dr. Kennedy did not say that he was disappointed, and as Matty was not much of a physiognomist, she did not read it in his face, and she continued: "Janet will remain here a while to arrange matters before joining me in my new home. She wished me to leave my little girl to come with her, but I can't do that. I must have my child with me. You've never seen her, have you? I'll call her at once." And stepping to the door, she bade Janet bring Maude into the parlor.
"Maude?"
How Dr. Kennedy started at the mention of a name which drove all thoughts of the $500 from his mind. There was feeling, passion, everything now in his cold gray eye, but quickly recovering his composure, he said calmly:
"Maude? Matty? Maude, is that your child's name?"
"Why, yes," she answered laughingly. "Didn't you know it before?"
"How should I," he replied, "when in your letters you have always called her daughter? But has she no other name? She surely was not baptized Maude."
Ere Mrs. Remington could speak, the sound of little pattering feet was heard in the hall without, and in a moment Maude Remington stood before her stepfather elect, looking, as that rather fastidious gentleman thought, more like a wild gypsy than the child of a civilized mother. She was a fat, chubby child, not yet 5 years old, black-eyed, black-haired, black-faced, with short thick curls which, damp with perspiration, stood up all over her head, giving her a singular appearance. She had been playing in the brook, her favourite companion, and now, with little spatters of mud ornamenting both face and pantalettes, her sunbonnet hanging down her back, and her hands full of pebble stones, she stood furtively eyeing the stranger, whose mental exclamation was:
"Mercy, what a fright!"
"Maude!" exclaimed the distressed Mrs. Remington, "where have you been? Go at once to Janet and have your dress changed, then come back to me." Nothing loath to join Janet, whose company was preferable to that of the stranger, Maude left the room, while Dr. Kennedy, turning to Mrs. Remington, said: "She is not at all like you, my dear." "No," answered the lady. "She is like her father in everything. The same eyes, the same hair, and—" She was going on to say more, when the expression of Dr. Kennedy's face stopped her, and she began to wonder if she had displeased him. Dr. Kennedy could talk for hours of "the late Mrs. Kennedy," accompanying his words with long-drawn sighs, and enumerating her many virtues, all of which he expected to be improved upon by her successor. But he could not bear to hear the name of Harry Remington spoken by one who was to be his wife, and he at once changed the subject of Maude's looks to her name, which he learned was really Matilda. She had been called Maude, Matty said, after one who was once a very dear friend both of herself and her husband.
"Then we will call her Matilda," said he, "as it is a maxim of mine never to spoil children by giving them pet names."
"But you call your daughter Nellie," suggested the little widow, and in her soft blue eye there shone a mischievous twinkle, as if she fancied she had beaten him with his own argument.
But if she thought to convince that most unreasonable man, she was mistaken. What he did was no criterion for others, unless he chose that it should be so, and he answered: "That is Sister Kelsey's idea, and as she is very fond of Nellie, I do not interfere. But seriously, Matty, darling," and he drew her to his side with an uncommon show of fondness, "I cannot call your daughter Maude. I do not like the name, and it is a maxim of mine, that if a person dislikes a name, 'tis an easy matter to dislike the one who bears it."
Had Mrs. Remington cared less for him than she did, she might have wondered how many more disagreeable maxims he had in store. But love is blind, or nearly so, and when, as if to make amends for his remarks, he caressed her with an unusual degree of tenderness, the impulsive woman felt that she would call her daughter anything which suited him. Accordingly, when at last Maude returned to the parlor with her dress changed, her curls arranged, and her dimpled cheeks shining with the suds in which they had been washed, she was prepared to say Matilda, or whatever else pleased his capricious fancy. "Little girl,"